Welcome to AWWA Piping Industry College. We are in the Cross Connections Control Lab, where we will be testing backflow preventers. First step is to notify the customer that we will be shutting the water off during the test. Secondly, we're going to identify the backflow preventer. Today we are going to be testing the reduced pressure principle backflow preventer. Inspect that there are no visible leaks. Ensure that you have proper direction of flow and that there are no cross connections downstream. Observe that there are 2 shutoff valves, 2 checkoff valves, 2 check valves, 4 properly located test cocks, and a differential pressure relief valve. For the setup, flush test cock number 4, and leave running to establish flow. Proceed to open test cock 1 slowly. Followed by test cock 2. And test cock 3. And close test cock number 4. Today we will be using the TK99E differential gauge with a 5-valve configuration. We have a high side control valve, a low side control valve, and a bypass control valve. On the back, we have a high side bleed valve and a low side bleed valve. Connect high side hose to test cock 2 and low side hose to test cock 3, and wrap up any remaining hoses. Make sure all your valves are shut. Slowly open test cock 3 and bleed out any air by opening the low side bleed valve and leave running. Open test cock 2 and bleed out any air by opening the high side bleed valve and leave it running until all air or debris is cleared. Close the bleed valves in reverse order, starting with high side bleed valve, and then closing the low side bleed valve. Close shutoff valve 2 only. Observe for 10 seconds and record the apparent pressure drop as steady. I will record the apparent pressure drop as 7.8 psid. Proceeding to test 1. We will be testing the opening point and operation of the differential relief valve. It shall open at 2 psid or greater. Wipe down valve assembly to eliminate chances of a false reading. Place hand under relief valve outlet, then increase the pressure zone by opening the high side control valve fully, followed by opening the low pressure control valve a quarter to half a turn slowly. Once a water drop falls on your hand, close low side valve and mark down the pressure the relief valve opened at. Test number 2. We're going to test check valve number 2 that it closed drip tight in reverse flow. Ensure shutoff valve 2 is in the closed position. Bleed air from bypass hose by opening the bypass control valve and leave running. Connect the bypass hose to test cock 4. Close the bypass control valve and open test cock 4. Open low side bleed valve to re-establish zone pressure and close bleed valve when pressure is restored. Open the bypass control valve fully. You will get a drop in pressure due to discompression. Observe until gauge pressure remains steady, and record pressure as holding in reverse flow. Test number 3. We're going to test check valve number 1 that it closed tight in direction of flow. Ensure the high and bypass control valves are in the open position. Once again, open low side bleed valve to re-establish zone pressure and close the valve once pressure is restored. Observe until pressure remains steady, and record the actual pressure drop across check valve 1. Calculate the buffer value, which is the static pressure drop from check valve 1 minus the relief valve opening point, and record. Close test cocks and remove equipment. Finally, test 4 is to test the static line pressure at test cock 1. Attach gauge to test cock 1 and open. Wait for pressure to steady and record the pressure. Let the gauge steady and record the line pressure in PSIG. Close test cock number 1 and remove the gauge. To final your test, wipe down the backflow preventer, check for leaks, once everything is good, notify the customer that you will be turning the water back on. This completes the test procedure for the reduced pressure principle. Thank you.